seriously without participating in beauty pageants. So I'm not knocking anybody who's participated in a beauty pageant, but seemed just a dichotomy. And to their credit, before I left, they had changed that to Mr. and Mrs. Ambassador, is what they did. They did away with the beauty pageant aspect, and they just had a male and a female airman, and they were the ambassadors to the community. And I thought that was a much better way to go. So I like to think I had something to say about that. My pursuits over my lifetime have, I guess, just reflected my engineering bent. They've reflected my independence. I sew. Who talked about sewing? I learned to sew mostly because we couldn't afford new clothes. When I say we grew up poor, we were poor. We didn't have a car. We didn't have. Some years we didn't have a TV set, and when we did, it was black and white. I know that's some kids go. They can't even fathom that. We didn't have a washing machine, so I've washed clothes in the bathtub, hung them up to dry in the basement. But I didn't have new clothes, so I learned to sew. I really did, and to this day, and I got really good. I could do blazers and skirts and pants. My mom to this day has some things that I made for her, and she'll wear it, and I go, "Is that the blouse I made for you in 1989?" And it is, and it's still holding up well. So, the reason I took to sewing, first, it's a creative outlet, but second, in a way, it's kind of, if you think about it, it's engineering, because you're mapping, two-dimensional materials into three-dimensional space. I bet you never heard sewing described like that, have you? But that's what it was for me. It was a creative outlet. One of my favorite pastimes was building these imaginary bridges in the backyard for the ants to go over. I would dig canals, this elaborate series of canals, and fuel it with the water hose, and then build bridges out of plant leaves. And so, and my mom tells me I also used to take stuff apart and put it back together. I don't remember doing that, but she says I did. But I've been drawn to manufacturing, I think, pretty much my whole life. And one of the advantages of being in Detroit in engineering school in the 80s, there still were a lot of companies around that we could tour, so we toured. And one of the advantages of being in sales, selling boxes, is you get to see other people's manufacturing facilities. So, in fact, I remember visiting a Swedish Match several times, and the buyer who was out there, whose name escapes me, every time I'd go out on the floor, we'd pass this one room, and he'd say, "Janine, the freshest chill you'll ever have is through that room. You want me to get you a piece?" And I'd say, "No, I'm trying to cut down, so thank you." Thank you very much. But I love seeing manufacturing floors. Yesterday, I had the privilege of returning to Princeton, Kentucky, where my largest customer was. At the time, it was Brimner Food Group. Now they've just been sold, so now it's gone from Brimner to ConAgra to now Treehouse Foods. But they made graham crackers, vanilla wafers, saltines, oyster crackers, fig Newtons, all kinds of stuff. And just to be out on the floor and seeing the improvements they've done, and to have a discussion about workforce development too along the way was an honor to be out there. But as a machine supervisor, and from machine supervisor to plant manager in the corrugated business was truly rewarding. So we talk about being bold. I love the slogan too: smart and bold and strong. And I was reflecting on times in my life when I've kind of been swimming against the tide, and I can recall one instance in maybe the 6th grade where I actually stood up to the lunch lady. I remember this because I shocked myself. She had just accused a boy in line behind me of doing something that I knew he hadn't done because I was there. And I just snapped at this woman without even thinking about it and defended this kid. And I kind of got in a little bit of trouble because they marched her out to where I was sitting and made me apologize. But I still remember that incident. Sometimes you have to speak up. There will be times when you have to speak up, and if we don't, I think we're a poorer nation for it. I truly do. Even the story of how I got to Desert Storm. I was in Desert Storm for 7 months during my 7 years in the Air Force, and I was not supposed to go. I was the newest in the unit. They had 6 people who were on rotation, who were ready to go. We had to keep our bags packed, but because I was the newest, I was down at the bottom. So Desert Shield kicks off, the first person gets deployed, and the next person in line is a person in my office who had told me from the day I'd gotten there that he was going to do as little as possible. And he did. I've never seen anybody literally sit at his desk for 8 hours and twiddle their thumbs, but he did. And so when Operation Desert Storm Shield / Storm kicked off, I was really concerned because now we're in a real world situation. I was with AWACS at the time, you know, the plane with the dome on it. If you've seen Transformers, that's an actual AWACS crew. I just want to put a plug in for AWACS. But I was really concerned about this gentleman going because it can be the difference between finding a downed pilot or not, and that person dying, or tracking an enemy plane or not. And so I bypassed my boss's boss, went to my commander, asked for 10 minutes of his time, and told him my observations and implored him not to send this gentleman to Desert Storm. And so the commander listened to me, and he promptly dropped this gentleman down to the bottom of the list, but what he did next, I did not expect. He moves me up to number 2, so yeah. So that was how I got to Desert Storm, and actually I was supposed to come home sooner, but they kept extending the rotation, and I was actually happy about that. So there have been times where I've spoken up, you know, boldly. There have been times where I've been swimming against the tide, and one of those times led me to standing here as your Lieutenant Governor, because the way I met Matt Bevin was in the Tea Party. And regardless of your politics, I always defend the Tea Party because I think we were doing exactly what the founders expect a people in a self-governed government to do, and that is to be active, engaged, and informed. And we had decided that we were gonna vet whoever decided to run for Senate and pick somebody to run and back somebody. And so we actually put together a comprehensive process to vet a candidate. We sent feelers out all over the state and came up with a 6-page question pool. We had Matt Bevin do a pre-questionnaire. We investigated him on the internet, and then we grilled him for 3 hours. So I meet a lot of people who are intimidated by politicians, and in fact, the girls who greeted me, I had to tell them, nope, I'm just Janine. You know, I'm glad you're excited, but I'm just a regular person. Our elected officials are just regular people, and we are public servants. You know, you guys are my boss. I work for you, and I think that it's been my observation that a lot of elected officials lose sight of that fact. So we vetted Matt, and we decided, I came away out of that process just so impressed with who he is as a person, his approach to his family life, his businesses. He's a debt-free kind of guy, by the way, so we were right in line. Just his zest for life. And he grew up poor too, but on a farm. If you ever hear his story, he grew up poor, one of 6 kids on a farm up in the Northeast. So similar stories. But the one thing we share is our love of God and our zest for life, and so it's just been a truly wonderful journey. So I ended up supporting him fully, and that's how we got to know each other. One thing I would add to the curriculum at Girls Inc., because I got asked this question on the campaign trail. Actually, it was in one of the debates. One of the debates was women's issues. And I don't remember the question, but the one thing I said was teach girls to negotiate. Men do this. They think it's a sport. And they enjoy it. And women as a rule, don't enjoy it. But I have learned throughout my career, I learned that salaries are negotiable. I learned that vacation time is negotiable. I learned that so many things are negotiable. You know, who here has shopped for a new car? I don't find it exciting at all. I've never found that process exciting. So actually, you'll be interested to hear that the last car payment I had was in 1989. That's how much of a debt-free person I am. So, and then I was blessed to have jobs where they gave me a company car. So, and even when I was downsized, I ended up buying the car that I was driving. So I just wrote a check for it. So I still don't have a car payment. Yes. And I wish someone had taught me about negotiating, and I wish someone had taught me about saving and investing, because nobody around me was even talking about doing saving and investing, and I was disciplined enough that I might have done that, or I probably would have done that instead of just, spending my money on concert tickets and, whatever. I can't even tell you what I spent the money on, and that's the thing. You get to a certain point and you don't even know what you spent your money on, but you wish you'd invested it. And if somebody had actually spoken to me about investing, I probably would have invested in companies in topics that interested me, which was computers, Microsoft, Apple, buy that in the 1980s. I might not be here. I might be off fishing somewhere. So, and speaking of computers, I was blessed enough to go to a high school in Detroit. It was the only college prep competitive entry school, Cass Tech. I actually met somebody the other day who went to Cass Tech, but they were the only high school that had a computer, and we're talking in the 1970s, so this is when it filled a room. So we had a little mainframe, so I had punch cards, I had my little punch cards, and so I've watched as computers have evolved over time, but thinking about what to talk about today, I remembered in junior high when I knew I was going to Cass Tech, and they gave me a list of majors. They said, here, pick one. And so the most technical thing on that list was computer programming. And actually, they did me a service. They really did, because I chose computers, and it's been a lifelong thing. But when I graduated 3 years later, and I was leafing through the program, and my graduating class was 1,000 kids. That's how big the school was. But I'm leafing through the program, and that's when I see they've got all these other technical things. It wasn't even on the list I was shown. And I think what I was shown was the girls list, is what I was shown. And I was gonna get mad about that, but I really didn't. But it's really interesting. The person who said that, she was told she couldn't do engineering. Girls don't do engineering. Well, we didn't even have a discussion in my case in junior high. They just showed me the girls list. So I had forgotten about that till I was prepping for this appearance. But so I would tell your girls, so learn to negotiate, save and invest, ask questions. That one thing for me has probably led me here, because I've asked questions. It's not that I'm argumentative, but I'm always just curious. If I had time, I'd sit with each of you and find out your story, why you do what you do, where you've lived, what your family lives were like, what you do in your off-duty time. Be a lifelong learner. I will be 58 in May, and I am still learning new things. And I was talking with kids yesterday, and I told them the same thing: be a lifelong learner, but not necessarily formal. Do some fun stuff. I took electric guitar lessons one summer, and I found a teacher who taught me riffs to Led Zeppelin and AC/DC songs, and I had a blast. One summer, I signed my husband and I up for country line dance lessons, and I'm truly grateful there's no video of that, because it was a little awkward, but it was fun. I have my amateur radio license finally. After years and years, I got it 2 years ago. Are any amateur radio operators in here? There's usually one. There's not even one. There are no hams in here? Okay, well, all right. I'll let you go then. But tell your girls to ask questions and be a lifelong learner, and to be strong and smart and bold, and don't let people tell you that what you can't do. It's totally up to you what you do. It truly is. And there's no end of people who will tell you what you can't do or why you're wrong, but you don't have to listen. You do not have to listen. That's the lesson I learned. Matt Bevan and I got into this race, and no one thought we would win this, but we just took our case right to the voters, and I think Kentucky will be blessed for it. But I'm truly grateful to be here today. This is the kind of thing I love doing, just to being a role model, and I'm grateful to be here. And so thank you all for being patient and sticking around to listen to me, and I truly appreciate it. So thank you very much, and God bless you, and congratulations to whoever the Athena winner is. Thank you.
Hold on just a second.
Oh, okay.
The standing ovation is for you.
Oh.
Lieutenant Governor, we do have a small token of our thanks to you from the Girls at Girls Inc.
Oh.
And you'll be happy to know, since you are such an advocate of children, that the mayor as well as the chief executive have named 2016 the Year of the Child in Davis County.
Right.
So we're happy to have your support in there too.
I'm honored
Thank
to
you
be
so much
part
for
of that.
joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor Jean Hampton. Thanks for your patience today, ladies and gentlemen. When you came in, you saw a list, you saw pictures of all of the past recipients of the Athena Awards. Many of them are here today, and if you would, I'd like for them to stand. We just want to acknowledge them as a group. Congratulations again, and thank you all for all of your contributions to us and our community. By the way, if you're inspired by what you've heard today, you can certainly continue to support Girls Inc. in many ways. The reverse raffle is coming up April 30th. The golf scramble is July 29th. And you can go to Fetta's Pizza every last Wednesday of the month and help support Girls Inc. Or you can just take the card that's on your table and fill it out and send in a check. We'd appreciate that too. We would like to now list the nominees for this year's Athena Awards, and each of the nominees, while we introduce them, some of the girls of Girls Inc. will be presenting a small token of our appreciation for their life work in showing all of us how to be strong, smart, and bold. We want to thank all of the Athena recipients. Let me tell you how we got there. The nominations are accepted by the Girls Inc. organization throughout the community. All of the applications are turned in. Only completed applications are forwarded to the selection committee. The secret selection committee, they are not associated with any agency staff, actually even in Owensboro. The committee looks at all of the recipients and the nominees, and the outcome is based on their criteria. And then the award is secretly engraved with the blessings of the Athena International Award, and that's how we got here today. What a pleasure to introduce the nominees for the Athena Award for 2016. First, from the City of Owensboro is City Commissioner Pam Smith Wright. Pam? A pastor of Pleasant Point Missionary Baptist Church and the current president of our NAACP, Rondalyn Randolph. Rondalyn? On behalf of the Owensboro Black Expo, the nonprofit organization that promotes and celebrates the culture, history, and achievements of the black community and all people, Deborah Hampton, the president, Lisa Bass, vice president. If you two would stand, thank you. From the Kentucky Legal Aid and Brescia University, the staff attorney and adjunct professor, Susan Montalvo Gesser. Retired college history professor from Kentucky Wesleyan College, Aloma Dew. Aloma? Two of our nominees could not be with us today. From the Help Office, the Volunteer Office Manager, Janet Zachary. If you'll please join with a round of applause for Jeanette. and the retired purchasing manager for Swedish Match, Joanne Skillman. We want to congratulate her for nominating. The Vice President and General Manager of Hart's Contracting, Sarah Murphy Ford. And the Campus Director of Daymar College, Tina Lynch. Tina? The Realtor Associate of Century 21 Partners, Betty Kincaid. Betty? And retired educator and civic volunteer, Jane Stevenson. Each year, the ATHENA Awards honor someone from our community who has attained and then personifies the highest level of excellence in their profession, has devoted time and energy to the community in a meaningful way, and most especially has opened the doors of opportunity to women. Today, we honor a very special individual who has not only led a successful career, but has been a timeless champion for women, the environment, social justice, as well as human rights. This year's recipient began her career after graduating from Murray State University as a high school teacher in Michigan and then later here in Owensboro. After obtaining her master's degree from Louisiana State University, she began teaching at both Brescia and Kentucky Wesleyan College. Over her tenure as a lecturer and adjunct professor at Kentucky Wesleyan, she developed various courses in women's history. She encouraged students, both male and female, to appreciate and value both the efforts and experiences of the women who paved the way for rights that are valued today. Her work as coordinator of the Job Training Partnership Act Summer Challenge program was recognized by the state of Kentucky and earned the JTPA Workplace Learning Program Award. She also joined the Sierra Club and as a member of the National Field Staff served as its Associate Midwest Representative. Our honoree's work has been characterized by the theme of empowerment. Whether she's working for earthquake safety, introducing women's history as an acceptable